You're listening to Two Hotheads on Cannabis with your hosts, Mike Cann and Heather Mack on unregularradio.com.
Unlike the chairman, I was one of the members of Congress who called for your resignation. I feel that the Department of Justice, that you're responsible for all of the activities that fall under your umbrella. And I think that you've denied knowledge of the program and that accordingly you should not be held accountable. My question to you today is, what more could have possibly gone wrong that you would have been held accountable? And before you answer that, I would suggest that the President has been eerily quiet about coming to your defense. So let me ask it this way. How many more Border Patrol agents would have had to die as a part of Operation Fast and Furious for you to take responsibility?
The gentlelady's time has expired. The gentleman may answer. Or not.
That's the kind of thing, you wonder why you're getting those calls. I mean, people will focus on a question as much as an answer. And, as a member of Congress, really, is that the way in which you want to be seen, you want to be known? I should be held accountable for certainly my role and whatever I did or didn't do in connection with the supervision of Fast and Furious. But, yeah, I'm Attorney General of the United States, and I should also be held accountable and perhaps even given some credit. Imagine that, given some credit for the things that this Justice Department has done under my leadership, whether it deals with national security, revitalized antitrust, a revitalized civil rights enforcement effort. And so one has to balance all of these things. I'm not claiming to be a perfect person or a perfect Attorney General. I get up every day and try to do the best job that I can. I have great faith in the people who work in the department. And, that kind of question, I think is frankly, and again, respect, I think that's beneath a member of Congress.
Well, the gentleman is concluded, I think.
Two Hotheads on Cannabis with Mike Cann and Heather Mack on unregularradio.com.
That was A.G. Holder speaking about Obama, and speaking about Fast and Furious, and their administration refuses to answer any questions on it. They're basically stonewalling. You can clearly see it. Does anyone else have any thoughts about it? Heather? No?
I mean...
you support this guy, right? This administration?
I didn't say that. All right, well, you're putting some significant words in my mouth.
I thought you were voting that way.
I mean, that's one thing. It doesn't mean I support everything this administration is doing, especially when it comes down to, their views on drug law reform. And I certainly think this is above and beyond what they should be involved with. Certainly, and it does seem like Attorney General Holder was being pretty significantly evasive, and most of what I heard was him saying, "I'm not at liberty to say," which just sounds very familiar echo from Donald Rumsfeld and others. It
does remind you of that, doesn't
right?
it? It reminds me of what Simpson said. He's trying to deal with his headphones. We having headphone issues, but Simpson, you said it on WBZ. It reminds me of Iran-Contra. That's what it reminds me of. Does it remind you of Iran-Contra, Simpson, a little bit?
It is. Yeah. It's the same game.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to explain before. Once you're in power, you shift weight to who's ever can take the blame, and you cover your ass, and that's all they do. They like covering their ass. And like I say, the president, he flip-flops on the issue, and he plays these little silly games. Now they have some fire from something that occurred in Mexico, and they really don't have nobody to blame right now, but they will find a culprit.
Yeah, they'll look for someone to hang.
Yeah.
Some innocent guy.
It's all their fault. It's not the president's fault. It's not the attorney general's fault. It's somebody else's fault. Somebody else screwed up.
It's a far cry from early on in the administration, too, which I just wonder what created that pivot, that idea politically that, instead of going with the sensible, stay out of the business of, prosecuting people, putting them in jail, and going after, dispensaries, of course, and all these other organizations that are being targeted now on a huge scale. What happened? Wasn't Attorney General Holder the first, the person who wrote that memo that said that was going to be the least priority of, deprioritized in the federal agenda? So I just wonder what made the shift, the ideological shift, closer to election time when it seems so clear that people are against this.
I think once you get in office, that's the way to the office.
Anyone else in the studio have thoughts on that? Why this shift has been going on?
I'm with you. I'm just really genuinely curious. I mean, I'm not intimately familiar with the details of Fast and Furious, but just from the gist of it and from the medical marijuana crackdowns, these techniques that anybody who did 10 minutes of research would know isn't going to help any of the problems. I'm just so curious as to what the incentive is there. Are you trying to impress voters? Are you trying to impress donors? I'm so curious.
Well, that's the thing. It's unexplainable unless you go to conspiracy theory. And that's how uncomfortable. It's like Iran-Contra. I mean, you can't explain this stuff away. And it goes back to the central tenet that does, how the Iran-Contra and Dark Alliance and Gary Webb, that work where they said the CIA was dealing drugs in L.A. I mean, that's where it is. This is a territory. Not only were they dealing drugs, but they were sending guns to the criminals. The U.S. government, our funding, they're funding these cartels. What's the name of the cartel? The Zetas? They gave them 2,000 guns.
You got to remember, what might be criminals to us, right, will be allies to the government that they use at that particular time for whatever particular reason
allies
they
of
use
convenience.
That's it.
Right, and then when it blows up in their face, then they're either criminals or they're terrorists.
It's just like Afghanistan.
Yeah,
They fought the Russians.
Yeah.
And then when they were fighting the Russians, they wanted these people to grow poppy so they could fund that war.
Yeah. Well, they grow plenty of it, and they can't stop it from growing. I learned a long time ago, over 30 years ago, that heroin in Afghanistan was the biggest producing crop in the world because it cost so little to make it, and people that was bringing it over, they was making $200 million out of each stash they brought over, and the government knew about it.
Sound familiar?
And they tried to stop it.
Yeah.
So it's something that they do. It's like the corporate that be. Whoever got the most power and the most money can rattle the biggest sword in the government, and they can say, well, we want to do this, and we're going to back you, and if something happens, we're going to use a fall guy. Well, right now, they don't have a fall guy.
Yeah,
right
they're looking for one. They're looking for one. They're looking for some document fall guys, too, because they don't have enough documents to back up whatever story they're going to come up with, apparently.
Well, they got their hands full.
I mean, it's just the hypocrisy, and I think that's Adam Scorgi also does an excellent job of exposing that type of consistent hypocrisy within our own federal government and state governments when it comes to marijuana legalization and marijuana drug law policy in general. And we'll talk a lot more about that later on in the show when we have him on the show.
Yeah, and we're taking phone calls 617-606-4122. Instant feedback. I have reason to believe our instant feedback isn't working today for some reason. We haven't
try
gotten
calling
it
in.
Maybe you're fibbing and you haven't sent it. So send it if@unregularradio.com.
You're listening to Two Hotheads on Cannabis with your hosts Mike Cann and Heather Mack on unregularradio.com.